Happy Thanksgiving. You know, you folks are the real deal because this is not a holy day of obligation. There is no moral requirement or church requirement to attend Mass today, yet here you are. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do. Putting the bird in the oven, all those pies, all those kinds of things, people coming over, maybe you're going over there, maybe you're traveling a long distance and you're like, well, I don't know if I can fit Mass in, but I'm gonna. The book of Sirach, Ben Sirach says, it begins, this passage from the book begins with bless God. Bless God. Now, how do we as lesser beings, infinitely lesser beings, bless being itself? God is not a being, no, he's not even a supreme being. He is being itself, according to St. Thomas Aquinas. How do we bless God? How do we do that? Here we are, Thanksgiving Day. We've come together to bless God. Thanksgiving Day. Abraham Lincoln establishes this as a federal holiday in 1863. It was sporadically celebrated since the 1700s, but he officially put it on the calendar in 1863. Now, stop and think about your history in 1863. Why would this country want to give thanks during the midst of the Civil War? I mean, think about the atrocities, the death, the dying in the Civil War, in a scale never before seen. South pitted against North, brother against brother, states' rights versus the enslavement of human beings, some of whom were brought here probably from Father Shea's home country, put under whip and chain. And this effort from the North to reunify the nation and put slavery to an end causes this huge dispute. Why would anyone want to give thanks in the midst of that? Thousands died in every battle. And we have pictures. The battlefield was littered with bodies. They were using tactics from the Revolutionary War, but the firearm technology had improved significantly, and they didn't understand it or realize it. Isn't it strange that England supplied both North and South with the .52 caliber Enfield rifle? And it was deadly. It was deadly. The mini ball made a bigger exit wound than entry wound, which caused death. If you were hit in the gut, you can see on those battlefields, many Civil War soldiers had pulled their uniform open to see if they were hit there because they knew they were a goner if they were. And if you were hit in the limb, you knew what happened: amputation. More soldiers died by disease than bullets. And I'll be graphic here. More died by diarrhea than from bullets. Can you imagine how awful that would be? The water was polluted. The food was horrible. They would call the rolls that you would eat hardtack because it was a very, very, very hard piece of bread. This was their food. Some from the North, when they were in places like Vicksburg, were so close to the rebels that they would whisper across the line, "Hey, Reb, why don't you just give up?" Not on a bet, Blue Belly. Did you know that General Sherman, for the first few years of the war, was severely depressed and really couldn't even move. And then, somehow, he was able to rally and became one of the most fierce generals in the war. At the beginning of the war, Lincoln's general, McClellan, hated Lincoln. He called him a big, dumb monkey. He would not fight. He had superior forces, superior armament, superior tactics, and he would sit on the other side of the river and he wouldn't fight, saying we didn't have enough. He could have put an end to the war early, quickly, definitively. Then he ran against Lincoln in the re-election. Why would Lincoln establish this as Thanksgiving? His wife was afflicted with mental illness. He was hated by so many in the North. It's hard to understand. But I think there is a lesson for us today. It's even in the opening prayer, the collect, talks about difficulty, challenge, struggle, and yet giving thanks. Abraham Lincoln coined the phrase, most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. Stand back and ponder that for a moment. Wait a second, isn't my happiness, my thankfulness based upon my exterior experience? If I'm battling cancer, then maybe I'm not happy. But if I win the lottery, maybe I am. He's saying, most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. And how do we find happiness? In one way, through giving thanks. Through giving thanks for not only the good stuff, and I find this hard, but I know it's true, but also in the bad stuff. In the difficulties, in the challenges. I have a friend here at the parish. When he is reminded of the difficulties and challenges and struggles, what an example. He steps back and he praise God. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. What? Praise God in this? Yeah, like Lincoln did. Think about Lincoln. Hated. When I watch movies and videos and documentaries, I'm like, why would this man take this job? It was awful. It was hated, despised even by people in the North. I can't answer that question except for I think the grace of God was with him, and he gave thanks in the difficult times and in the good times. And then when he arrived at the good time, just a few days after the Civil War, he was murdered in Ford's Theater. But he gave thanks in the good times and in the bad. Bless God. Bless God. That's what we're here to do. And the Catechism of the Catholic Church says how we bless God. See, God's blessing that he's conferring upon us even right now, even when we receive, especially when we receive the most holy sacrament of the altar, God's blessing is different, but we bless God through praise. This is what the Catechism says, through praise and submission of our will. That's how we bless God. And that's what we're here to do at this Thanksgiving Day Mass, is to praise God and surrender our will, because maybe we're dealing with difficult things. Maybe we're dealing with cancer, or somebody in the family is. Maybe we've got kids that are away from the church. Maybe we've fallen out of favor with even our best friend, and we haven't talked for months or even years. Maybe we're still struggling with anger towards a parent who is long dead. Yet we come together and say, okay, that isn't going to define me. That isn't going to rule me. I choose to give thanks today. And with the grace of God, I will choose to give thanks tomorrow. In the good times and in the bad times, in the challenges and in the struggles and in the joys and all the graces that God sends down, I choose to give thanks. And we remember what Abraham Lincoln said, most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. I think you folks are here because you've made up your mind to give thanks. You've made up your mind to praise. You've made up your mind to surrender to the will of God. And you've made up your mind to be thankful.